When innovation meets resistance, it doesn't just die, it just relocates. If governments end up owning more Bitcoin than its citizens, who really won the revolution? You can't print bonds to send bombs. My name is Flo. As I was just introduced, I'm the founder and CEO of Blockchain North. You may have met our team upstairs. We have the big blue media booth by the bar there, conveniently. First of all, I just want to give a shout out to the Futurist crew coming from Canada. It's an honor to represent Canada, and also really exciting to see Futurists expand into the United States. So maybe we can give them a big round of applause as well to encourage them to many more years. So over the past 3 years, I've interviewed over 200 leaders, from CEOs to builders, developers, investors, lobbyists, and more from all over. And after that many conversations, you definitely start to see patterns, truths, sometimes contradictions, and also some lessons about perhaps where this industry is really going. This industry is definitely not dying. I think we all know this in this room. It's also not exploding anymore. And maybe that's a good thing, by the way. This industry is just evolving, but there are certain nuances, and I just want to share those with you through 5 insights that come from interviews that I've actually conducted myself, and some quotes that you'll see appearing on the screen. So during my first interview with Alex Tapscott, author of Blockchain Revolution, co-founder of the Blockchain Research Institute, and yes, out of Toronto, he said to me, Ethereum is the most successful venture in Canadian history. Not a small thing. But he added, and we let it leave. You see, today Ethereum is a $500 billion asset, roughly the size of Samsung, to give you an idea. But more importantly than its size, of course, is the impact it's having on the tech industry globally, akin perhaps to the arrival of the internet 20 years before. Another example, when China banned Bitcoin mining a few years ago, the miners didn't just stop mining, they moved. They moved to Kazakhstan, they moved to the United States, they moved to Canada as well before we put up more walls there too. And in Quebec, where I'm based, Montreal, any Montrealers in the room, by the way? A few, yeah, my team. Quebec is one of the cheapest one of the cleanest and cheapest energy markets in the world, and we put a moratorium on Bitcoin mining. And so while some are putting up barriers for innovation, others, like Dubai, like Singapore, like Hong Kong, and yes, there's a lot of Americans in the room, I'm sure, the United States, which once considered crypto a threat, has recently become a real magnet. And now capital, talent, and projects are really flooding in. Trust me, as a Canadian, I'm a little bit frustrated to see that happen, but happy for you guys, okay? Because when innovation meets resistance, it doesn't just die, it just relocates. Blockchain doesn't need permission, tongue-in-cheek, it just needs a place to build. So if innovation moves where it's welcome, what actually draws people in this industry? A few weeks ago, I was at Boston Blockchain Week, and I got to interview Anna Drinevskaya, who's the former chief marketing officer at Cointelegraph. So I'd say she knows a thing or two about marketing, especially in crypto. And she said to me, flashy narratives, one could say meme coins, might be terrible investment, but really good for marketing. Hear me out. If you think about it, meme coins might seem financially absurd to some, but they have brought millions of people to crypto for the very first time. And ironically, maybe, one could argue, I'm not taking a position here, that meme coins have done more for marketing and for community building for this industry than any other serious project ever has. Because they build attention, emotion, and community, 3 things that really resonate with the masses. Of course, attention alone doesn't build an industry, so let's talk a little bit about control now. So we all know that there are talks right now in Washington, in Alberta, Canada, in other parts of the world about strategic Bitcoin reserves. But if governments end up owning more Bitcoin than its citizens, who really won the revolution? And so I got to interview Sebastian Bia, who's the president of the new digital asset treasury, Reserve One. And he says, and now I'm going to have to look at my notes, Bitcoin separates money from state. And when you remove an ability for a government to control the money, you remove its ability to wage war. And this quote is powerful. He says, you can't print bonds to send bombs. And that's the real core of it. Crypto's greatest promise isn't wealth, it's peace. But peace threatens power. I then went on to interview Gregory Johnson from New York University. And he said, when political power and industry mix, that's not just an Achilles heel. I was told yesterday I would mess up that word. Sorry, I'm French originally. An Achilles heel. I got it right. Thank you. That's the best way I can think of to represent Quebec, isn't it? It's actually the Achilles backbone. He's basically saying that conflict of interest can sabotage the hard work done by those who put their heart and souls, including me and my team, to build this industry, and I'm sure many in this room. So mass adoption sounds great, but if adoption means capture, it's not a revolution, it's more like an acquisition. Think about that. And that question of control, of course, gets a lot more complicated once you throw AI into the mix. So at Futurist in Toronto, the original conference this year, I got to interview Lisa Loud. I don't know if she's in the room, but I know she's on the speaking roster here. She's with Fluidify and with Secret Network Foundation. And she said to me, AI will dominate everything over the next 10 years, and that could be a really good thing, or that could be a really bad thing. And according to her, that depends if we decentralize it. And the only way to decentralize it is via encryption on-chain. I'll be honest, I had to think a little bit about that because there are probably some people who are thinking, not everything needs to be decentralized. I'm just going to try to paraphrase what she said. To me, her vision means that AI can only be trusted if it's decentralized. In other words, not in the hands of a few large groups like we're seeing today already with the cloud, for example. But decentralizing AI can only happen if we ensure a certain degree of privacy. Because of course we all care about our privacy, our health records, our finance, or just like the personal things that we put in ChatGPT every day. And we need to think a bit about that. After all, who really wants unlimited power through AI if it means that in exchange you have to give up all of your information? Right? Again, something that is probably worth pondering a little bit about. So ultimately that's the real crossroad where privacy, transparency, and even human agency will be defined. No small thing. So if AI and blockchain are converging, what really does the path forward look like? Let's be honest, we all love the term disruption, right? Especially in crypto. But Billy Siebel from the XDC Foundation said to me, there won't be a sudden reset where crypto suddenly replaces finance from one day to the next. He said the reality is integration, which is slower, messy, but inevitable. So the way I see it, crypto isn't like this tsunami, at least not anymore. It's more like a slow tide coming in. And every time a company launches a stable coin, a startup tokenizes assets, those lines between crypto and finance start blurring a little bit more. And the way I see it, it's not about blowing up the system. It's about transforming it from within. I really believe this is where we are at right now. And this kind of revolution also doesn't happen spontaneously, like let's say a flash mob or something like that. When preparing this talk, one of my team members said, wouldn't it be funny if suddenly a flash mob erupted behind me right now? But maybe for the next talk. It's kind of more like installing or updating your Mac OS on your 8-year-old MacBook. Slow, messy, etc. So after 200 interviews, here's what I learned. Crypto is definitely slower than many people had hoped, messier than anyone had planned, and more political than anyone wanted. But it's here to stay, not as an ideology, but more as infrastructure, and also as a mirror of who we are and how we deal with things like power, trust, and freedom. I'll share a final thought with you. Let's be patient with this revolution. Let's continue to build. And also let's be intentional about what it is that we are building and ensure that it serves people, not just markets. My name is Flo, or Florent Thévenin. I'm the founder and CEO of Blockchain North. My mission is to give Canada a voice, to inform, to educate. And if you want to have a conversation, feel free to reach out. Thank you.